Welcome to the Gray Range Podcast. My name is David Rousseau. We're going to explore the poetry of how we live, how we learn, and how we find our way along this strange path we call life. If you are curious about people, their stories, and all things savage and wonderful, join me on the Gray Range.
Now we're live.
Here we are. Here we are.
It's been a comedy of errors.
It's like I said, better than a tragedy of errors.
Yeah.
One leads to the other. Hopefully one doesn't lead to the other, but one's preferable to the other.
That's a fact.
You're gonna have errors. Better they're comical than tragic. Yeah. So good to see you again, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
It's been a minute. Lots going on in the world. So I'm curious, how was your unplugged month of March? Did you manage to stay off social media?
I've been on a little bit. Like, it wasn't completely unplugged. Like, I've been on doing work stuff, like for the
you kind of have to.
Kind of like, so just like a maintenance level of social media.
Yep.
But by and large, it's been very good for my brain, man, not to be plugged into it.
At several points during this past month, I've been like, man, Lucas should see this. And I'm like, wait, maybe it's better that he doesn't, because it just gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. So
yeah, I'm guilty as charged as far as like, logging in, just checking like the media stuff. Like, I know when it's coming out, I'll like log in to like share it and do that kind of stuff. So when I say like a maintenance level of social media, that's what I'm doing. I still want to promote everything I'm involved in and still be part of everything. But it's like, I don't want to, no hours of endless doom scrolling. Like, I can't.
Yeah, and that's pretty easy to do these days with all the insanity that's going on, nationally, internationally. It's kind of nice to be in this kind of small town backwater area sometimes, where it's like you kind of just drive around here, nothing's ever happening.
It's the same old thing.
Small town life, right?
Yeah, it's peaceful.
Yeah, you flip open your social media or turn on the news or something, and it's just catastrophe after catastrophe.
Well, I think part of it too is I'm tired of being rage farmed.
Yeah, me too.
It's my fault for following what I follow and subscribing where I subscribe. But, when you open it up in the morning and you're like, man, it's like everything is like knee-jerk, shock value, designed to elicit a response from me, and it works. So it's
and
it's nice to not be the product for a month.
One of the things that I was thinking, so our last episode, or recent episode that we dropped with Landon Mortensen there, has gotten picked up a little bit on some of the Instagram stuff, clips and stuff like that, and one of the things I've noticed is we've definitely there's some rage responses in there, right? And it's cookie cutter. It doesn't really matter what it is when it comes to either the right or the left.
Yeah, the
responses are almost just like boilerplate responses. Like, it's like, this is the angry left response to this, and this is the angry right response to this, right? Like, at least as it stands right now, it's like people are just so easily programmed that's, I got, for the first time, was referred to as an ignorant white man and a Russian bot all in the same day. It was like, I made my way up to first ignorant white man, then Russian bot. So I think we're climbing, man. We're
getting close.
We're moving on up in the world of social media, right? But I see that, and I know for myself, like, when I post online, usually it's just like straight garbage that just comes out of my head with no filter.
Yeah.
And I don't care about that stuff. Like, when I create stuff, when I write anything, when I'm done writing it, I hit send or I hit save. I might edit it a little bit, if I'm going to put something in a book, for instance, or put something up on the blog, I'll do that. But for the most part, like, I kind of just send it, then I forget about it.
Yeah.
But I have to be okay with it, right? I probably delete more posts than I send, because I'll write something and I'll get like halfway through some like long-winded tirade about it, and I'm like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Like, my input in here doesn't matter. These people are firmly entrenched in their beliefs. I don't have any, rock solid, earth shattering insights for them that are going to blow them out of their fortified position. And they're going to see the daylight and go, oh, whoa, like
that guy was right. Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. Or all I'm going to have is people who are going to surface level agree with me.
Yeah.
They might not really understand my position, but for the most part, it's, I'll just delete it. Cause I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I participating in this? Like, it's a mob. It's mob mentality. I'm like, why am I doing this?
Well, and people, I think the state of social media to a certain extent is people are on there looking for shit. I mean, they're literally looking to go pick a fight, throw some comments, and that's how they get off. They enjoy that back and forth. So.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, it's somebody posted something and I read it, and it's weird when you actually read something on the internet, it sticks with you.
Yeah.
And I think what they had said was, they had made some posts in some big account, probably some sort of writer or journalist, because I follow a ton of them. And they had made some kind of post, and somebody had felt some kind of way, and they were kind of demanding that this person pay attention to them. They're like, I'm offering up rebuttal to your opinion, and you're not defending your position. And this person was like, who the fuck are you to believe that you have like access to my time and my bandwidth, right? Like, I posted something online because it was my opinion. You disagree with my opinion. I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need to sit down and debate every like anonymous bot account on the internet about everything that I say, because it's the internet. What does Dave Chappelle say? Like, Twitter's not a real place.
No,
like,
I think it's important to keep it in mind to frame it in the proper context, is that some people have hobbies, and some person's hobby might be gardening, or they're a fisherman, or they like muscle cars. And I would say there's a huge percentage of people now, their hobby is the internet, literally social media. That's what they do. They'll sit there for 3 or 4 hours a day looking for that, whatever it is they're doing, right? Looking for that feedback.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's human contact too. Like, I don't know, like, if you think back to the time when people used to hang out with other human beings, like go to the bar, spend time at other people's houses, you'd call around. And
do you remember getting a brand new cassette tape and then
sitting
down with your friends and putting it in and listening to it? Like,
well, that was the thing. Like, you'd be like, hey, it'd be Wednesday night or Thursday night, like, what's happening this weekend? Oh, we're all going to Mike's place. That's the deal for this weekend. Or Friday night or whatever, that was the place. And do you remember that there's always like one person, usually a dude, usually drunker than most people, who would just fucking rant about everything and disagree with everyone and want to be right about everything. Yep. And nobody liked that guy?
Yeah.
That's what the internet is. It's just now we have this exponential number of that dude all over the place.
Everybody's platformed, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you don't even have to get invited to the house party now. You could still run your mouth.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. And it's like, I think slowly people are waking up to this thing where it's like, I don't have to participate in this. Like, I don't have to participate in the insanity. I don't need to log in. Like, you not like taking a month off of social media. That's fine. You get to gauge and throttle how you engage or disengage with what's going on online. Because what's going on online, I think, for most people, is not what's going on in real life, right? It's not their family. It's not their work. It's not their hobbies. It's not who they are as a person. They're there because it's mildly interesting in passing to them. And it's how they get their information. By and large, I think most people are getting their information online.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to see like some of that crossover, it's like, it's everything from comic cons to furry conventions to neo-Nazi rallies, right? It's like people who met online and then got together in real life. And it's like, it's not like a church picnic for the most part, right? Like, those people are meeting in real life all the time. It's like, I have this weird divergent idea that is socially not, I won't say totally unacceptable, but it's definitely an outlier. And I've found other crazy people like me. So we're going to, rent a conference room in Las Vegas once a year, or meet up in some backwoods farm in North Carolina and
have our big freak party.
Yeah, shoot guns and talk about Hitler and whatever the fuck they do. Like I think, you know, all power to people meeting other people. I think that's great. But I think it really has, like, even in those situations where it's like everybody online is all like rah, rah, whatever, where they like, but I will guarantee you get all those people together and half of them don't like each other.
Yeah.
Like once you meet in real life, you find out, hey, that one guy gets really loud when he's drunk and is really annoying and won't shut up. Like,
I've tried to make a conscious effort too to, like, not replace that time with just more garbage. Like, so like I'm reading more. For anybody who lives in Canada, it's time to plant your seeds. So I've got a whole bunch, got a brand new grow up going, got some Amazon cheap lights. Like now you can buy great grow lights.
What are we growing this year?
I'm not growing dope or anything evil. I grow peppers, man. I grow peppers, tomatoes, and herbs is mostly what I do. I don't do too many other vegetables. Like, I got a greenhouse, right? So I grow things that go in the greenhouse. So I got some flower beds where I put things into. But,
yeah, for sure. I don't generally do that. I'm not that diligent. I was just at my mom's place a few hours from Grand Prairie, and she had like tomatoes and stuff sprouting in the guest room and stuff like that. But I'm generally like just a seed in the dirt kind of guy. Like by the end of May.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that
I guess if you're in a greenhouse, you got to sprout it early.
I do, and I have to.
Short growing season.
Some of the stuff is like 90 days to harvest.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to grow it up here.
Well, we're in month 5 of winter, going into month 6 of winter.
So you kind of, generally speaking, what I'll do is sometimes by the end of February, I'll have seeds planted under and once they sprout, they're under a grow light, just so that they're ready by, mid-May. Once it's not going to freeze overnight. You kind of have to start end of February, early March, just so that when you do put it outside, it's down to +2. It doesn't die.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah,
exactly. And you should be doing things that bring you some joy and some value and something that you're going from a start state where something doesn't exist to where something does exist.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's all kinds of good stuff that comes from that when you're building something, or for myself when I'm creating books and stuff like that constant creation and keeping a garden is really, really good for that.
Yeah.
Calms the soul, warrior in the garden sort of thing. Not that I'm a warrior or a gardener, but keeping a vegetable garden is one of those things that's you're giving yourself something fruitful. Right. I think we just ate the last of our potatoes from last year.
Yeah.
We don't eat that many potatoes and we didn't grow that many, but just having that.
I should grow potatoes. My house goes through a ton of potatoes.
Yeah. And then it's one of those things, right? You're just like, hey, I have this thing I grew or this thing that I made. And it's got some value to it. Right. But yeah, it definitely gets you off the rage rectangle and engaged in the world. And hopefully, I mean, the internet can be good for that kind of stuff too. 'Cause you can say, hey, look, I'm interested in gardening. You can meet other people through gardening, and that's one of the things that people struggle with right now is how do I meet people? How do I meet like-minded people? All right. So if you're into growing begonias, right, or you want to learn how to do something, you can find that group locally online, meet with those people, and guess what? People who like the stuff that you like, probably going to like them. And they're probably going to like you because you like the stuff that you like. So you probably have the same temperaments or interests.
It goes a long ways if you have a shared common interest to build a relationship with somebody.
Well, especially there's something that shows a certain kind of temperament or a certain type of temperance, right? Like if it's something like gardening, well, that's something that takes patience, something that takes work.
I think that's why I do it, because I'm not, I mean, you know me, and I think like most of my friends would never tell you I'm a patient man. So gardening is immensely slow.
Yeah, you can't force it, right? It's
you put the seed in the dirt, water it, and you're like, check it out. Like, man, I'll be like checking it like twice a day, and I'm like, yep, still dirt. And it's like the package says 7 days, but I'm still checking it every 3
I've only ever
hours.
grown one thing that I checked every day.
Yeah.
I don't grow that anymore.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the things I love about it is you can just throw seeds in the ground.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's pretty low maintenance. Like for me, it's the day-to-day watering, weeding, checking stuff out. Try something different this year than I tried last year.
Yeah.
And for us, we got raised garden beds and it's pretty new soil. So then like every year I lay out some tarps, haul all the dirt out of those garden beds, spread it out, get some manure, get some whatever it is, that I need in the garden that year. And I'm growing. Usually take 4 to 5 years to get really, really good soil.
Yeah.
And then things just increase from there. Like you just get better and better yields.
Yeah.
And then you end up with a whole bunch of extra dirt because you're multiplying it all the time. And that's what I use for potting. Wife does flowers and all that kind of stuff around the house. So that kind of stuff works out. You mentioned reading. What are you reading?
Lots of stuff.
Yeah. Anything good?
What did I burn through? Put me on the spot there. It's called Dead Mountain. It was one. It's about a bunch of Russian kids back right when the Soviet Union, kind of after it, not after it collapsed. They got rid of, I can't remember which dude, but there's basically a bunch of university kids, and they go and they they have like level 1, level 2, level 3 certifications in backcountry, cross country, etc.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bunch of young kids. They go up and they never come back. They all die.
Oh shit.
And so it was one of those kind of unsolved mysteries that went on for a bunch of
the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really famous.
And
I'm a mystery buff, so I've researched this. I didn't really research that one too much because it was one of those ones that was done forever.
It was. It was interesting though. What they finally figured out what caused it was like infrasonic waves, and they basically
they don't know.
They kind of have it nailed down now.
They just released a study, the Russian government, I think commissioned a university.
Yeah.
To do a study just last year or the year before, and they claim it's just an avalanche.
But that doesn't, but that doesn't fit with the facts.
I'm just saying, the government says it's an avalanche.
Yeah, no, it's whatever.
Why stuff was radioactive, we don't know.
It makes infrasonic waves make sense.
I loved that one for a long time because it was like there was cryptids involved, there was aliens involved, there was Russian government stuff involved, there was all kinds of science. So I don't believe for a second that I think what happened was there's a resurgence in interest in it with the internet and these huge accounts that talk mysteries. And so there was a growing amount of interest in it. And I think that there's probably a thing where they're like, we don't want a whole bunch of people going out there. So we're just going to, swamp gas.
We're going to tell them what happened. Yeah.
We're swamp gas. It's, exactly. Yeah.
And then I read, what else? Razor 3. It's about a guy who flew Razor 3. So 160th SOAR, Special Operations Helicopter guys. Flying Chinooks. In Afghanistan and Iraq. Fascinating book. Wild stuff.
Very cool. Sounds like something yeah.
And he was at all the major ones like Red Wings and everything else.
I'll have to get the recommendation on that one from you.
Yeah, it was very good. What else am I reading? Mark. Just finished that.
Okay.
I got like 2 other ones on the go. I'm bad for like reading 3 or 4 things at a time sometimes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've got Jordan Peterson's newest on my shelf, and I'm kind of waiting to crack that. I'm right into I've been reading a book for probably like 2 years called Matterhorn.
Okay.
And it's a fiction based on real events written by a real dude about Vietnam. And it's probably the most in-depth story. Like when it comes to detail, like he's talking about like almost minute to minute.
Okay.
Like you feel like you're there, like you're right into it. And the discussions with, like this guy spent a lot of time in Vietnam and he based the entire scenario. So I've been reading this for seriously like 2 years. I'll sit up and pick it up and read like 10 pages of it. It's like 600 pages long. It's a huge book.
Is it written like a?
No, it's fiction. It's a story.
Oh, okay.
But the detail in the characters and the detail in the dialogue, and then they'll get into a firefight, and it's just like very well described.
Yeah.
So you're kind of there. I think that's why I only read it in short spurts, is because like it's so dense with detail that I can only handle like 20 pages at a time.
Did you read John Stryker Meyer's stuff, like Across the Fence?
No, I really should though.
Yeah, read. I think he's got 2, possibly 3 books because there was like the Sogcast stuff.
Yeah. I do check out some of that from time to time.
Okay, his books are fantastic. Like if you want a real page turner about Vietnam, and it's all true. The guy was there. Like,
I've listened to I think all the podcasts that he did with Jocko, and those are some of my favorite episodes of Jocko's podcast or with John Streckermeyer for sure, hands down. Talking about swinging off of a friggin' lead under a helicopter,
just unbelievable,
with a rifle that's not his, and dropping into the trees and stuff like that. It's like, how is this not? I guess we know why it wasn't a movie, because it was all classified until only a handful of years ago, right? Yeah. So now we know all the studies and observation group stuff that was happening in Cambodia and all that stuff. That's wild. Yeah, I'm reading. The other thing I'm reading right now is a book called Dark Aeon, and I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but he was a dude that did like light and sound production for huge music stars. And like on his off time, he holds like 3 degrees. Like he could be teaching in a university or anything like that in the US, but he just makes a ton of money in concert seasons going around doing this big production work. And it's about technocracy. Okay. So it's a nonfiction, basically a book of, and it's kind of funny because I remember reading Alex Jones's book. So he goes pretty heavy on the like World Economic Forum and the technocracy stuff that he talks about. Yeah, Alex Jones's book was not the greatest book, even though I'm wearing one of his shirts. Shout out to Alex Jones. I had to buy some merch because I'm like, man, like, you know, they kind of did him dirty, I think. Yeah, he definitely made some mistakes. Yeah. But the reason the world is the way it is right now is heavily influenced by that dude. Yeah. Because he said shit 20 years ago. So that's why I'm rocking the InfoWars shirt. But this book, Dark Aeon, is just all about AI, technological advancements, written like 2023, 2024. So it's pretty up to date with what's happening.
Man, AI is kind of a trip too. We got some classes coming up, and one of the thumbnails for one of the classes, Mike says to me, he's like, "Hey man, you should get on Grok and like make a cool thumbnail for this." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And previously, messing around with Grok, I got like stuff like dinosaurs and fire, and so I'm like, "Hey Grok, draw me a picture of a man and a wife standing in front of a barn, and they're holding pistols." Well, so Grok spits out the image, and it's got like dinosaurs in the background and fire and all this chaos, and I'm like, "Fuck, that's cool," but it's scary that it remembered my preferences from another project.
Because Grok doesn't have memory. I actually had a conversation with Grok about that here recently, because I've been using it so much.
Well, so then either it's stored in the cookies in your phone or whatever it is.
It could be in relation to your account.
It could be. So obviously it has some level of predictive learning where it was feeding me what it knows I like. And I'm like, man, I didn't ask for dinosaurs or fire, but here we are, and this is cool.
Yeah, because I asked, I was doing a bunch of work with it recently, and I asked, like, it's okay, folks. Just our on-air sign coming off.
We are still on the air.
We are still on the air. But I had asked it about some pretty detailed, basically research assistant type stuff. And I asked it to, like, do you remember our previous conversations? Can you help me out with this? And it was just like, no, I have no memory.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, because then I have to, like, remember how I worded the prompt last time. So now I've just taken to copying everything and emailing it to myself.
Yeah.
So I have a record of, like, really in-depth stuff. So that way if I have to go back, I can go back and say, well, because a lot of it's like, put out a series of factors, give me an assessment on this information, provide me with this data. It provides me with data. Then I start making changes to various factors, right? What if we change this? What if we change that? Give me information based on this, and this now. Change this factor. So you end up with this huge thread of stuff. So there's a couple of times where I just like left and I'm trying to go back and can't get it. But yeah, the AI is insane. Funny because I'm about halfway through this book, Dark Aeon, and it's overwhelmingly like negative as to where this is going. It's like there's 2 possible, well, I guess 3 possible outcomes. I think Elon Musk was saying on Rogan that it's like 80% likely that it'll be a benefit to humanity, 20% that it'll destroy humanity.
Yeah.
But there's a third thing in there where it's like all that it's just going to be leveraged for the control state, where it's just going to allow this huge level of control by governments, by corporations, and all that stuff to program people, control people,
Yeah.
build these virtual control structures that we couldn't build before because we just wasn't efficient to do so. But it'll be interesting to see, like the internet, how much of this they never really regulated the internet. Places like China could, but for most of the world, the internet is still a free place. Not so much in England, where you're going to arrest you if you say stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I mean, for most of the world, it's still free. But I wonder if AI will end up being like that. Will there be, AI platforms? Obviously, they will be used to control people. They're already doing it in tons of places for facial recognition, all that kind of stuff. Like you'll just be walking down the street, that camera at that stoplight is going to see your face, and it's going to just pull up everything on you.
Yeah, it knows who you
Yeah,
are. It's looking for you,
but it'll be looking for everyone all the time because with quantum computing, the computational ability will be that it can take in all of the information all of the time.
Yeah.
So it can constantly be tracking. But I'm wondering, like, will there be like rogue AI, like rebel AI?
Sure, why not?
I don't know. I think eventually we'll get to the AI war. The robot war is coming. They already got the human robots that move like humans. Supposed to be walking around. I think they said 5 years should be commercially available in your house. Humanoid robots.
Well, yeah, they've got dogs, AI dogs on the battlefield, or robotic dogs, right?
Oh yeah. Sean Ryan had a dude on who used to work for Facebook. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he was saying that the stuff like the sci-fi stuff, the exoskeletons, all that stuff, he's like, that's months away from fielding.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that he's making. Worked for Facebook, now he makes weapons for DOD. But he's like, some of that stuff that you're seeing like in online or kind of in movies and stuff like that, like that stuff is either already being fielded or is months away. Like not years, but months away from making it to the battlefield. Heads-up displays, biosensors, and not like a big exoskeleton suits or whatever like that, but enough that will help your load carriage so you can walk longer, farther, faster, further, right?
Carry more ammo.
Exactly, all that kind of shit, right? And I was imagining that because I saw a video here just this week, and again, to go back to Sean Ryan, he's had this guest on. She's used to be a CIA targeter.
Yeah.
She's
Super
been
bad.
She's been on a bunch of them.
Sarah Adams.
Yeah, Sarah Adams. And she's, her group's been releasing some videos, and they're kind of ISIS recruitment videos. And these guys are done up now because the U.S., A, trained them, B, equipped them. And now these guys are running around doing, U.S. soft drills with gear. So they're looking pretty squared away, like way more squared away than the old dudes you see on the monkey bars back in the 80s, like, jumping over stuff. Way more squared away. And when I see that, and I'm like, man, these guys look like the real deal now, right? And then I think, well, then what does like DevGru look like now? Like, what is that? What's CAG? What does that tip of the spear look like now?
I'm going to guess
at the full end of their capability.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that technology, certainly with the Russia-Ukraine war, when you look at the amount of drones being used now, drone technology, period. And you can give yourself a nightmarish trip if you want to go see all that. There's tons of footage on the internet of all kinds of gnarly drone stuff happening.
Yeah, I hate watching that shit.
Yeah, but it's certainly changed the face of warfare. It will be different from here on out. It's not going to be
100%.
Yep. It'll never be the same. And
no,
my guess is
we're in a new phase.
All of the lessons that everybody's learning from even sitting on the sidelines of that conflict, like everybody, like your first world armies, like if they're not actively working on drone programs right now.
Well, I don't think anybody's on the sidelines in Ukraine. I think
I mean anybody
China,
who's
North Korea are in there. We know the Americans are in there. Canadians have been on a training side for part of that. I would imagine, the British SAS, French are in there. Like I would imagine that everybody's contributing something in this giant proxy war against Russia.
So now
everybody's fielding something.
I'm not on the social, but somebody was telling me that the French and the British or the UK are going to put troops into Ukraine.
They've been saying that, and from what I can gather of that is it's in the future peacekeeping role.
Okay, so they're looking at a...
Yeah, like I think there's been some journalists that have put it out there to seem like, oh, they're going to put boots on the ground tomorrow. But it seemed like the context from what I was reading was in the light of these negotiations that are happening in Saudi Arabia between Putin, who's saber rattling, and Zelensky, who's saber rattling, and Donald Trump, who's actually trying to play peacemaker in this thing. I think there is a roadmap. I think that it's going to take time, but I think there is a roadmap, and I think that the Western Europe is more than willing to put peacekeeping troops on the ground. Now, how that looks, you're gonna have to have some sort of demilitarized zone, like I don't know if it'll be the Donbass region or what, but there will be a DMZ there, and it'll be just like, in my mind, I see it just like East and West Germany. Like you're going to have...
Or North and South Korea, kind of a...
Something like that, yeah. I think like the way it will look will be more like Germany, the North and South Korea, because you're taking part of... It'll be likely part of Ukraine.
Yeah. That
is like cut in half, so to speak. Just from the little bit of reading that I've been doing, it's so hard to get impartial information when it comes to that topic. But that's kind of where I took that was, they're going to be in a peacekeeping role. Yeah. Of course, Canada's going to, definitely going to send peacekeepers because that's what we do, apparently.
Well, if there's a way for us to spend a bunch of money, we're in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We haven't heard, obviously we have an election coming. Yeah. Both sides are heating up.
What's your we can get into the again, not on the social, but everyone's like, hey, look at this. It's like you can't escape it, but it appears like Carney is massively leading in the polls. Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you look at especially the
problem is we already know that all of our media comes from the state, okay, and they have an agenda.
Well, right now, I don't remember the name of the website, Poly something. It's a gambling website.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's talking
Polybet.
about. Yeah.
I think it is.
Something like that. Yeah. Right now, it's showing, as of today, it's showing Polyev crashing and Carney rocketing up
through the...
And again,
but then we look at
it's a bookie, man.
Yeah, and then we see the...
it's information manipulation. There's a war on for your mind.
Yeah, right?
Like literally. Like
now, apparently in Surrey, was it the night before last? Polyev had a rally there.
Yeah,
he's in Western Canada.
I think it's his third major rally, maybe fourth.
And he's got like something like 5,500 people or over 5,000 people in attendance.
Standing room only, wrapped around the block.
Yeah, and then you've got Carney hitting these big halls, and there's like 300 people.
Like, yeah, no, I don't think you can believe polls.
Yeah,
I think information manipulation in a place, in a state where the state controls the information cannot be believed. Yeah.
What's your...
Right? I think there was just an article that came out very, very recently. We could look it up about somehow, I don't know how this new liberal government is governing with a pro-road parliament, but apparently money was released to the tune of, I can't remember, several $1 million to media to cover the election from the liberal government.
Well, even there's a lot of problems when Carney, like, he signed his order in council. It was very Trumpian.
Right.
Like, he was like,
trying to look like
has
Trump.
His little red folder, and he opens it up and he signs it with a Sharpie, just like Trump. It's like, look, bitch, you don't have that power.
No,
like, this
it's
isn't
so
real.
cringe. It's awesome.
But before we get off the rails,
not America,
right?
Man, do we ever want to be sometimes?
Man, do we ever? Yeah. He's sitting there hating on Trump. He can't stand him and this and that.
Just going to emulate him anyway, right?
I'm going to be just like him.
Yeah. So if Trump was goose stepping down Washington Ave, would you just be right in there with him? Be like, I'll just goose step harder, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. What's Dave's prediction on the federal election in Canada when the writ drops? Who's the next leader, and is it majority or minority?
Well, I mean, I'm putting a lot.
Don't go. We'll get to the long answer.
Okay, so the short answer?
Short answer.
Will be conservative, likely majority.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's my belief.
Okay.
I think that one of the things that I read here recently is the longer Carney talks, the worse he looks.
It's true, because I have when I said I got off social media, I've still been catching some YouTube clips, because to me YouTube isn't like, I'm not scrolling YouTube.
Yeah.
Maybe people do scroll YouTube. I don't.
Depends on what you do. I don't know.
Yeah, so I have seen some clips. He's not a good speaker, man.
No, and he tends to get off track and get mad at the journalists, and he's just not a likable guy. Right when he came out, like, because he's already around. Like, it's not like he's new to the Liberals or new to Canada.
Yeah.
But to become an unelected prime minister, and just looking, if I were to just look at character from what little I know, he struck me as another Michael Ignatieff. So an outsider outside of Canada, one of those I know everything, you know nothing people, who's going to come in. And Canadians don't like that. Like, one of the things you just don't see ever in Canadian politics is, like, Trump's a businessman, right? Like, he wears a suit and tie everywhere. The only time he's not wearing a suit and tie is when he's on the golf course, right? And then he's golfing, right? But he gets along with the everyday people, and in a way that's genuine, right? And there's been other politicians in the U.S. who have that kind of folksy demeanor, who even Obama would show up in a t-shirt and shorts or a polo, and there was I think it was in Power anymore, but there was an episode of Anthony Bourdain's show on CNN where, like, he has a beer with Obama, right?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just, like, this thing in Canadian politics where it's this, like, it's almost like used car salesmen. Like, it's so not genuine. It's just like, I get it, but how many of these, like, you'd think, like, well, would I have a beer with Polyev? Like, I don't know. I've never met the guy, but you don't see that. You don't see them in that, like, normal element of life. And I think that's something that we just don't see. So when you get these Ivy League, World Bank, Oxford professor, like, you name the thing, and it's like, all right, plebs, here's your new overlord. Isn't he great? And it's like, people are done with that shit. I guess populism is what's the rule of the day now with people, because they want somebody who's not that. They don't know what they want, just not that.
Well, I think people aren't afraid to speak up. I think Canadians are kind of sick of all of it. He was at a rally there, and you could hear someone in the background yelling, how many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it's like, wow, like, to have somebody yell that out at her, and did you see the look on his face? I mean, he kind of like,
yeah.
But there's pictures of him all over.
With Ghislaine Maxwell and
like there's numerous photos. Like, he does not hang out with the
he's part of the
greatest people
that crowd. Like, but I think that's, we've talked about this before. I think that the old power structures are clinging to power.
Yeah, and
they're using all the tools of the trade. But I think it's kind of like going like smoke through their hands in a way, because things are moving so fast that maybe that's part of the reason why so many governments are investing so heavily in AIs, because the old power structures won't work. They don't control anything. They kind of, in a way, created a monster they can't control, with allowing, be it on the right or the left, this kind of rage mob mentality, this use of weaponized information domestically. And maybe that kind of like the post 9/11 world where you had this control state where everything's being tracked all the time. Well, the sword cuts both ways, bitches. Like, what you can use against them, they can use against you. And I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of these cases where, like,
well, I think it catches them off guard. They're like, oh, like,
what do you mean?
They didn't anticipate
you
the
don't respect me because of my degrees or because of my money or because of my status. It's like, no. And guess what? We never did, but we didn't have a voice to tell you that we didn't.
It's super fun to gaslight everybody and shovel lies down down their throats and tell them whatever you want and expect them to believe it. And then when it happens back,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not true, like I think you see gaslighting on both sides where people are just spewing the most outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
It's wild though. And actually that is one thing I do like about social media is I love watching the reaction to that stuff on both sides. Kind of like,
Yep.
More so from the perspective of like, it's the fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Like, well, what did you think was going to happen? And then when it does happen, it's funny to watch the consequences, but.
Oh yeah. Like if I say something dumb on this podcast, which I'm sure happens all the fucking time, or if I say something stupid on the internet, I expect to be called on it. I expect to be just destroyed. Like,
you white Russian bot.
Well, that's the thing. Like if I came into the internet in the time of like the flame wars,
yeah,
like chat rooms and message boards and all that was like you'd get along with 6 people and the rest of it was 8,000 people each trying to just eviscerate each other with wit, because we didn't have GIF files or anything like that at the time, right? Didn't have cool emojis, didn't have anything like that. So that's all it was. It was flame wars constantly. And that's what I expect on the internet. And like, I agree with like when I was telling you before about that person who was like, I'm not obligated to share my time with you online. I'm here for my own purposes. I'm much the same way. Like if I put something out and I get a whole bunch of hateful comments, I might read some of them. I try to like all of them because I'm like, thanks for participating. I, at least give you the pat on the back, like, way to go, use your freedom of speech.
Yeah.
If something really interests me, I might engage. But for the most part, I don't have time to sit there and do a back and forth thumb text with somebody for 2 hours about something that's going to likely change neither one of our minds. Because guess what? If you had good info that was like, hey, look, this guy's misled about this, you would have led with that, right? Instead of just calling me the Russian bot or whatever, because now I've disregarded your position altogether. And a lot of it's just like, you just posted that you'll post a position that didn't involve any thought, right? It's a reaction. It's you're flipping a middle finger or whatever. And it's like,
part of it man. Too is that, that same person that made that comment probably looked at 100 other posts and made a similar disparaging comment or whatever it was. And so you can't 100%. Get butthurt by it. You can't be like, oh my God, that person's attacking me. No, that person's just, that's their hobby. That's what they're out there doing.
Yeah, exactly.
They get on their phone and they look at Instagram until way too late at night. They might scroll for 6 or 7 hours and that's what they do. So you can't take it personally that it was an attack. Like it's,
well, no. And that's the thing about any of this stuff is I applaud it in my own way, right? Because I am nothing if not a free speech advocate.
Yeah,
I 100% advocate for the right for you to show your ass online, and in every way you can take that, right? Like if you want to get out there and say some dumb shit, like go ahead. Like you're seriously gonna type that out, look at it, and say, "Yep, that's good with me." Send. Like just fucking send it, and right on, because. One time, back in the flame war days, back in the chat room days, somebody had, like, in the midst of probably something deeply political or something like that. I can't remember the comment that I made, but it was just kind of flippant. And this person took offense, like, well, that's the best you've got sort of deal. And I was like, yeah, this is the internet. You can ask a smart question and still get a dumb answer. Life's like that. Get used to it.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of people started using that as their tagline, like their SIG line that you'd have back in the...
that's right.
The SIG line you'd have back in the message boards days. I saw that on a bunch of different accounts. And people were like, sometimes you can ask a smart question and still get a dumb answer. Like, life's like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you my best rebuttal. I don't owe you the depths of my soul. I'll give you whatever. You want to watch the podcast and hear my point of view? You can watch the podcast and hear my point of view. Yeah. If you're expecting to get it from the 2-minute soundbite that I put out on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, it's like, no, that's just, it's advertising, right? It's you can't get the milk without buying the cow sort of deal, right? Yeah. Like, I just don't see there probably was a time when you could sit down online and do the big long form debates with people. And I think that still has some value, but I think it's marginal now.
I would say like your long-term debates. I mean, that's what podcasts are for, where 2 people or 3 people sit down and have a discussion. I think your long-form discussion sort of is the forum for that, to get anything productive out of it. Anything where you allow unfettered access, like no limits, like everybody can get in here and say what they want, you'll never have a productive discussion.
No, but I'm all for that. I want people to be able to speak their piece, as long as they're not being hateful and violent, like trying to incite violence and stuff like that. That's where you can use moderator control and stuff like that, and I'm all for that, because it is ultimately that person's platform, or that organization's platform, a business's platform, whatever. They can have whatever rules they want. But by all means, if you're feeling triggered and you need to say something because you don't have the self-control to sit there and think about it for 2 seconds and go, does this make a difference in the world? That's fine. Go ahead. Like, speak your piece. Like, just don't, it's like throwing rocks into the pond, right? Don't expect it to make great waves, right? You're not going to change the level of the pond by throwing your pebble into it.
No, you can throw rocks all day and
it's not going to
change anything.
Yeah, you're not changing the level of the shoreline, right? Like, but all the more power to it, man. Like, and I think, to take it back to what we're talking about with the Canadian election, I think we're seeing a lot of influence and a lot of propaganda coming out from the government. The same thing we see every election in Canada. You're going to see a huge ramp up in left-leaning accounts because the government pays people to post. We know this. They have a whole program about it. You're going to see that. And also because with a lot of the people on the left, it seems like that seems to be their weapon, their vector of attack, right? I'm going to use my online presence to do X. And it's like, well, not sure you're going to make a difference, because people, like I said, I think people are starting to tune out a lot of the noise, and they're starting to kind of decide on their own, or you're starting to see conversations with people being had like face to face a lot more about that kind of stuff, because people are just like, why should I post my opinion online if someone's just going to jump down my throat about it, right? Call me a Russian bot or whatever the hell, right? You're bought and paid for by whoever, right? And that's fine, because those things are happening. There are people who are bought and paid for. We are not bought and paid for. We have never made a dime off this podcast.
In fact, we're net negative by a long shot.
Probably by a long shot, yeah. If you do want to support the podcast, you can go ahead. thegrayrange.com. We got all kinds of merch. But, we've sold a few T-shirts. But, yeah, we're definitely not influenced by the state in any way, shape, or form. I am influenced by watching the way things are going, right? By seeing politics become this right versus left attack. That's one seems to be more grassroots than the other. One seems to be a little bit more unhinged than the other. At least from what we're seeing in the U.S. I hope it never gets that way. Like your small town thing where someone's like destroying somebody's car over their political views and stuff like that. I don't think people really register just how messed up that is.
It's pretty
That's like property crime. If you're like, okay, you have political views, so now I'm going to destroy your property. There's only one step after that.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really bad.
People start getting shot over political views, and you're like, woo, we've gone too far.
Yeah, because that's when things can cascade, get out of control. And then even the biggest sound bites don't stop it, right? I mean, you had recently the Liberal MP from China saying his conservative person should get arrested and handed in from a bounty to China.
Yeah.
And the Liberals have still, like, we're into a couple of days since this happened. The Liberals still haven't fired this person.
Yeah.
Even the NDP is speaking out about it. And like, in what world do we live in where this is okay? Like, yeah, you'll just turn over my political opponent to communist China.
Yeah.
Apparently the Liberal Party's okay with that, though.
Well, I think, because they're all they're part of it. A bunch of them are owned. Like
we know there was allegedly 13 that nobody said anything about.
I think the real number is 338.
Probably. But I mean, we're just at that point now where there's a lot of dividing lines, and I think people are kind of like, oh, maybe let's peel it back a little bit, like peel back the rhetoric a little bit.
Well, I think after coming through, since the before times, now that we made it through the whole COVID thing, I think people are just tired of being weaponized, right? The whole us versus them. I think even the people that like, oh, you're going to kill everybody if you don't get it, or you're like all the extreme opinions. I think people are just tired of extremism to a certain extent. Where
I think so.
They've kind of had enough of like being told what to think, what to do, who to hate.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even with Trump's election in the U.S., I'm trying to think, has it even been 3 months? In the short span of time, you saw a pretty big uptick in what was anti-Semitism on the left due to the situation in Gaza.
Yeah.
And then Trump got in, and there seemed to be a huge amount of anti-Semitism on the right. And even that is I'm starting to see more people checking that, right? Where it's like, oh, you're just blaming the Jews for everything, right? It's like do your research, man. Like some accounts with good information who've gone down the rabbit hole on stuff, and they've been kind of called to task, right? Like, hey, yeah, bad things happen in the world. Yes, there are influences and intelligence agencies and stuff that are involved, but everything doesn't come down to this one group of people.
No.
Right? Like, and to say that and to think that way, it's like you're walking in the wrong direction, man. Like, so I think we're starting to see that on the right. We're starting to see that get pulled back a little bit. We're starting to see, on the left, I think people are just kind of like the general populace is just kind of sick of the rage mob stuff. There's no big, wide, sweeping support for it anymore. People are sick of getting manipulated with guilt over this, that, and the other thing. And by all means, none of this means that bad things aren't happening. Right? It doesn't mean that the state doesn't need to be, just because somebody you like is in charge, doesn't mean that everything's all good and all of a sudden, right? Everything that they do is going to be golden. That's not true. Still needs checks and balances on both sides, right? If we get a conservative government in Canada tomorrow and Poilievre decides to just undo everything that's been done for however long, is everything going to be good? Right? Is every decision they make going to be fantastic, or like we can just be like, oh, we don't have to worry anymore because the right government is in charge? No, so that's the wrong way to think about it.
That's
right?
not real. I think it doesn't matter what the government does. Like 49 to 51% of people, somewhere in those numbers, is going to be against it. Sure.
And I think that's
or they'll have an idea of how it could have been done better. Or
that's the way it's always been, right? Like, that's why big government doesn't work. It needs to be smaller, small, and regional. The bigger it is, the worse it's going to be. We've talked about the Canadian identity and
lack of it.
Talked about a little bit where the similarities in Canada and America and that kind of thing. Like you've got very, very diverse peoples. Like. And when I said Canada is America, or very American, there's a massive caveat there, because Quebec is certainly not America.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no analog for Quebec in North America. It is very much Europe.
Yeah.
Right? Very much tied more to that than anything. Although if you probably scratch below the surface, you're going to find a lot of the way the politics work and the culture work is probably very close to New York, Chicago, stuff like that. The way politics is done, the way business is done, and that's for a reason. But I mean, like you have this diversity nationwide, but I think people are just looking at Carney, looking at the Liberals, and I don't think there's going to be that huge movement of support. I mean, Donald Trump pretty much endorsing the Liberals, endorsing Carney.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Donald Trump is such a good salesman that he can make the Liberals in Canada like him.
Yeah.
Right? All he has to say is, I like Carney. And they'll have to like it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's kind of like uh, if Elon Musk were to go out and make a Cybertruck that was like, you know, pro-Democrat, right? Just wrap it in the Democratic, national convention stuff for the next year and stuff like that. Are they going to deface it because it's still a Cybertruck? If he were to flip-flop tomorrow, right? If you just be like, oh, me and Trump had a falling out, and now, or somebody on the Democrat side comes out and is just a, amazing candidate. Yeah. Just a wholesome, down-to-earth American who's walking the fine line. He's like, I understand what Donald Trump has done, but we need to make sure this happens and this happens and this happens. We need to bring down the rhetoric, all that stuff. Start saying all the right things on the Democratic side, which is unlikely, but could happen. And they would probably win if they did so. And Musk jumped behind them. Like, would they stop destroying his cars because of ideology?
Probably.
Right? And
I
what
think
happens?
they're pretty fickle.
What happens?
He was a darling
of
the
Grand
left.
Dragon of the KKK decides to buy a Cybertruck and wrap it in swastikas. What are they going to carve into it? Like, they'll be like, oh man, somebody already did this one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man.
It's weird because he was a darling of the left, and they praised his vehicles, and that was the left vehicle, was the Tesla for the most part for quite a few years, because man, this dude's saving the planet.
A lot of liberals driving Teslas, man. And power to them, because honestly, I don't think that if they hadn't bought all those Teslas, if they hadn't got Tesla off the ground, then Musk would not have had the money and not have had the influence to go out and push the EV as far as he did, to the point where he was able to build the Cybertruck, which is primarily owned by conservative Republicans, and to make that switch. So here you've got this whole thing. Like, if you're a climate crisis advocate, you've got a guy who managed to get rednecks on board to buy $130,000 electric truck as a status symbol, and now you don't like him, right? But I think that's where we're at, though. I think that's where we're at with this stuff. Is like, all the sense is gone. Like, we're to the point now where the crazy is as crazy as it's going to get. We're, like I said, we're one step away from blood and fire, which I don't think, there's obviously some people on the left who tried to kill Donald Trump. So there obviously is movements like that would push for violence, that would advocate violence. I don't think the general populace in any way, shape, or form on the right or the left have any appetite for that. I don't think so. I think most people now are just like, hey, look, we spoke. The American people spoke, overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. Let's let this play out for 4 years, see what happens. He's doing stuff. He's got a huge approval rating. I think I was reading that the southern border crossings, illegal crossings, are down 94%.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously they don't know about the ones they don't know about, but
that's huge. It's not funny, but it's interesting that all that was well within the power of the government, always has been, and here we are. Like,
yeah, and I get it. Like, when I look at what the U.S. is doing, where they look at their borders, and they look at trade, and they look at the permeation of U.S. military might around the world, they weaken themselves by being world police, by trying to look at too much, by trying to be too influential in too many places. They diluted their brand, they diluted their power, and I think COVID was the big thing when all of a sudden everything gets locked down, and they realized that because we signed all these treaties, these free trade treaties and trade treaties worldwide, that we have actually empowered our enemies against us, because now we don't make the very things that we require just to maintain power, to maintain that top level performance militarily or economically. And that needs to be changed. Like, we have to bring more and more of that back in-house. And if we can't bring the power, because if it's just not feasible, because we can't build smartphones or microchips or whatever it is they can't build yet, in that meantime, they need to be making it prohibitively expensive for rival countries, near peer military powers, to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's going to be situations with Canada and places overseas in Europe and stuff like that where they're going to flex that same thing and try and get as much in the basket as possible. But I get it. I get where they're at. And I think a lot of countries are looking at it that way. But a lot of them just don't have the size and the capacity and the stroke that the American economy does when it starts to shift stuff around, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's the way of the world. It's the same with Milai down in Argentina, right? Like, horrible economy, like really tough. People are destitute down there. They were living off of a government that had no money, and it's just going to start to turn around now. And it'll probably take like decades to really fix itself, right? So, I mean, hopefully that's the case. I mean, like I always say, I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist, because I do believe that government plays a role in some small way, but you got to take the shackles off business. You got to let things flourish, and hopefully that's what wins the Conservatives the election. Is this idea? They're talking about cutting income tax, fantastic. Talking about removing a whole bunch of barriers for resource development and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a really fantastic. I was listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson and the dude who invented the BlackBerry, so the research in motion guy.
Oh yeah.
And he does an amazing job of describing why Canada's in the situation that it's in economically. Basically, because like 30 years ago, the world economy changed, and Canada didn't get on board. It went from a resource-based economy to a knowledge-based economy, and Canada has been stuck for 30 years in a resource-based economy. And we create some of the best technology and some of the best intellectual property in the world, but we farm it out to China, United States, Great Britain, all these other places, and we've never leveraged it. So we're stuck. Basically, our economy, you can watch it, how it's like we're, 10th in the developed world right now, and we're looking to be 40th in the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's getting worse because even our, I saw something the other day, our richest province, which is Alberta, is poorer than the poorest state.
Yeah, Mississippi, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what? Like we have less money, less disposable income.
Yeah.
We're heavily taxed.
Our standard of living is in our best province is lower than the lowest standard of living in the U.S.
It says something.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have that explained, maybe I'll post a link to it in the description for this. It's worth a listen, because I never really understood what that macro scale economy did. And nobody in Canada ever explained it. Nobody was ever like, hey, by the way, we're screwing, like we're just fucking the pooch on this so bad. Like we're just not doing what we're supposed to be doing. People are getting rich. Professors are keeping big tenured positions because we have some of the best schools in the world. So we're producing this stuff, but we're just not making any money off of it because the way that our country is designed is, as long as the people at the top stay fat, that Laurentian elite, what's happening out east and probably throughout the country in small pockets, as long as they maintain power and influence. And who knows, maybe I would not be surprised if there's a level of intelligence infiltration in our country where things are happening that, this could benefit Canada, but the people in charge of making decisions, they owe something to this nation, and they owe something to this nation, or they owe something to this corporation, and Canada's not going to see a dime at that development. It's going to go somewhere else. So,
yeah, no, I would say our leadership in this country is pretty good at skimming off the top.
Yeah, I think they're skimming a little deeper than that.
Yeah, they're all getting rich and fat and happy, and they don't care if they sell the country to do it.
Well, I think there was when Donald Trump got in and they were doing the Doggy rollout with Musk and his fine group of autists. Somebody was saying, because there's the website in the U.S. for USAID, and there is a corresponding parallel website for Canada, and it was deleted within a day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You can check that on your own internet if you really want to go that deep. But I don't have anybody here checking all that stuff.
We don't have a dude in the back.
Yeah, and my phone is camera 3, so I I don't have my phone here to check it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the kind of thing I think we're seeing in Canada is zero accountability, and we're looking to just have another installed, World Economic Forum, rubber stamp, globalist in charge. I don't think people have the stomach for it anymore. I think they want to see something. Yeah. I think the West leads, to be honest with you. I think Alberta leads. I think you got Danielle Smith down in the States negotiating on Alberta's behalf, getting called all kinds of traitor and all this by other Canadians. I think she's leading. I think she's one of the few people who's out there looking at the lay of the land and saying, I was given a mandate by the people of Alberta to look after this province, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do that, because the next level up from me that are supposed to be looking after the people of Canada, including the people of Alberta, are not doing that. So she's out there doing that. I think you do have some good leadership in Alberta, and I think that's, Alberta will have to, someone's going to have to lead the nation. Something's going to have to instill, people are flocking to Alberta for work. People are flocking to Alberta to live. Huge amounts of people moving here. And it's not because of our weather, and it's not because we have, the best, obviously not the best hockey team, but either of them. But I mean, people are coming here for a reason, is because it's got hope. The place that they're in doesn't have the hope they're looking for. It doesn't show them the future that they're looking for. It doesn't show them a return on their investment, their time, their effort, their life, their family. They want to go somewhere that they think does.
Well, there's lots of places there's just no jobs. One thing Alberta doesn't lack is jobs.
Yeah, and it'll grow, right? It's people will come and they'll make what they need. You'll see a bunch more people moving to cities, but you'll also see a lot more of these smaller towns start to grow, places where there is work, right? Absolutely. I could definitely use another one. But I think that's where we're at. That's my my prediction. What about you? What are you thinking? Please stand by.
I think, man, I don't really have a cemented opinion on it. And I don't want to come across as a pessimist, but I could still see a minority government on either side. And I wouldn't be shocked if it was a liberal minority.
I don't think anybody
and I think it's just the people are used to voting that brand, man, and they like it. And they want to live that lifestyle, and they don't want to have any threats to it. And I think when you look at some of the things that Poilievre has said, he's going to defund the CBC, he's going to cut government, he's going to deport 5 million people, and all this stuff. Well, there's 5 million votes that he won't get, right? Mm-hmm. So I just think that people are very comfortable in certain, even if they're on welfare, they're not working, or they're, they work a seasonal job and that's how they grew up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
People will get comfortable, and any threat to that comfort is a vote, for the other guy. And I'd love to see a majority, on the conservative side, as far as what are the other options we have? I mean, people are like, oh, PCC and all this other shit. And then, people are like, oh, Alberta's going to separate. This will pave the way for Alberta if Carney gets in. It's
well, those are accelerationists, right? Like they want a liberal government to come in so that Alberta has another leg to, and it's one of those things. It's like, well, I can beat my kids and hope they straighten up and fly right? I don't have kids. It's probably a good thing if I'm going to beat them so they straighten up and fly right. But what are the odds? You're going to do something totally extreme in the hopes that maybe it kicks off some unlikely series of events that gets you to an end state that you think you want.
Yeah.
You don't know that you want it because you probably haven't thought it out quite that close.
Yeah. The optimistic side of me is conservative government, which is all it means for people like us is, you'll be less worried about the government spending your money like a bunch of retards. They're still going to spend it like a bunch of retards, but it is what it is.
Well, here's the thing. I wish this would be the one thing that I could say I wish I had some reach for, is if there is no conservative majority, then you will have a liberal majority, because the NDP will prop up the liberals, and you will have a coalition majority, and we're right back to square one. And I think that might be the one thing that gets people out of that comfort zone to vote, where they say, because here's the thing, that welfare state, that government tit that people may have been on, all that stuff, there's very little benefit there anymore. The cost of the economy is up so high that, getting by on welfare ain't getting by anymore.
Well, all of our job creation is in government jobs. And so what happens now, you have all these jobs that produce nothing.
Oh, I understand. In Canada, I think we're at 24% of our population is employed in the public sector. I mean, we saw how that worked for Greece, right? It's not a good scene. But I think people are looking at it and they're saying, like, something has to change, because more of the same is, like, I think that's where you're gonna, like, you had a lot of people in the States, in blue states, they're voting for Trump because they're looking at that arc and they're going, this rocket ain't making it to the moon, man. This thing's crashing if we don't get somebody else at the helm.
Do you think Canadians as a whole are smart enough to look at that big picture?
I think so. I think they have to. I think the pain is on. I think the thumb screws have been put to the poor, especially to the people who looked to the government to look after them. I think you're going to have one of the things that the Canadian media has done a really good job of is pushing this Trump derangement syndrome. The Canadian strain of Trump derangement syndrome.
It's pretty wild.
It's like the Delta variant of TDS. But I think when people sit down and they look at it, what's really going to change for them is Carney comes in there. He ain't, like, he's more of the same. He's more of the same, but worse. I don't think he's pulling the wool over too many people's eyes. Poilievre, is he a great candidate? Not great in my mind. He's a lukewarm, mediocre candidate in my mind.
Yeah, I think he's got his moments where he speaks very well and he's articulate.
Yes.
And that's kind of like...
He does have his moments. If he didn't have those moments, he'd be a terrible candidate.
Exactly. So I think that's one of his main strengths, where he's been able to get in front of a group of people and convey a message, and he doesn't seem fake when he says it. You know what I mean? Like, there's some real passion there, and it seems like he actually cares.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a politician. He's a lifetime politician. And honestly, can he do worse? Can he really do worse than Justin Trudeau? I don't think so. I think that enough people are going to see it, because when we look at like 4 months ago, you saw polls, and it was this overwhelming, sweeping majority for the Conservatives nationwide.
Super majority.
Well, if you look at the by-elections for the past 6 months, it's been largely Conservative. Just had the election in Ontario. Doug Ford won a massive one there. He's about as conservative, as deep as a mud puddle that way. But I mean, I think nobody's gonna, on that side of the coin, nobody's voting liberal in those areas.
You know what's shocking? What do you think of the riding that Carney's running in after they deep sixed that other dude? So they accused him. So this was
I read the whole thing.
Chandra? Is that his name?
Yes.
Something and what did they said he was ineligible.
He was compromised by India.
Yeah, India's interfering with this guy, whatever. He was very popular.
Yep.
They took all his money, his $350,000. They said he was ineligible, and then Carney runs there, and it's like,
well, it's supposed to be a lock, right? Yeah. That's supposed to be a lock. Well, yeah.
But the tactic, like, even if that was my team and that's how the leadership is operating,
it's no different than what they did. It's the same playbook the Democrats used.
Right, but
the same thing they did to...
then to not be able to, as a voter, to not be able to draw the parallel that, hey, they're going to fucking do the same thing to you.
Yeah.
Like they do it at the top level. They'll deep six their own candidates and stab each other in the back.
Same thing to Bernie Sanders in the 2020 election. Like,
but then the voters, like, they don't make that connection.
Or 2016 election, yeah. And but eventually they did.
Yeah.
Like I think
it'd be funny if Carney lost that riding. Like, that would be hilarious if I can't remember the name of the lady that's running against him. Well, I guess there'd be two because there'd be an NDP candidate.
Yeah.
But there's a lady conservative running.
Yeah,
there.
for sure. I know. I followed her. She went from something like 8,000 followers to 40,000 followers in a matter of a day.
Yeah. It'll be funny to see how that particular battle plays out. But
yeah, I will hazard a guess. My assessment of Carney is he's unlikable.
And he doesn't speak French.
No, his wife and kids still live in New York.
He's connected to the Davos elite.
Yeah.
He's a known, I don't want to say he's a known pedophile. He's known to hang around pedophiles.
He's known to hang out in the
company of
group
people
who we still don't have all the information on yet.
Right.
Hold that thought.
One of them's in jail. One's dead. I'll keep ranting while he's gone. Strap in, folks.
Epstein didn't kill him.
Epstein did not kill himself.
And we're back. Right?
And rant.
That's just it, man. There's just so much going on. It's I mean, I don't think I've been bored a day since
2019.
Since COVID.
Yeah.
You know, the world just seems to be a crazier and crazier place, but part of me like thinks, if Trump is this big destabilizing force in the world, well, he's in power for 4 years. What does year 2 look like? What does year 3 look like? What does the international situation look like? Once things develop, if there's any kind of peace in Ukraine, I think you're going to see a bit of a redrawing of the map of Europe a little bit.
Yeah.
I think North America is going to change, obviously, with our trade relationship with the U.S., regardless of who gets in. I'm a big fan of saying that when it comes to international politics or like big stuff, it's an illusion. It's watch what's happening over here so you don't watch what's happening over here. The power brokers and the people that control all the money aren't going to let all their money get taken away, right? They're not going to let all their power get taken away. If you're a believer that there's a hidden hand behind the way the world works, then it's probably two. And one's doing stuff it wants you to see, so you don't look and see what the other one is doing.
Yeah.
Right?
I think with Trump, I think you're going to see a lot more chaos for the next short while.
Definitely through the summer.
Yeah, and then I think you'll see some calm after that. Optimistically, I mean, I think he's going to make all of his big changes right out of the gates. It's going to seem shocking and unbalancing for everybody. And then I think if he's any kind of a visionary, which the jury's still out maybe, I think you would see him start to, as the policies have time to like get smoothed out and implemented, I think you'll see calm take hold, and then you'll kind of see what the vision is. I think right now it's like, it's chaotic and it's nuts, all the stuff that's going on, but I think that's kind of almost how it has to be. You got to get started.
Yeah. Well, and some of the things that he's done are fundamental changes, right? So the people he's put in a lot of positions are new to those positions, and they're moving into a department or we call it a ministry, or an agency that's been essentially gutted down to the studs in a lot of cases, right? So it's like, okay, well, maybe Trump's treating a lot of it like buying an old hotel, right? Like you come in, you strip it down, you redesign it, you build it from the ground back up, and you relaunch, right? So maybe that's what he's looking to do with a large portions of the U.S. government is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he's always been known for is putting the right people in charge. So it's like, this is my plan. We've got this department. We're going to strip it down to the studs, and you're going to be in charge of rebuilding it. And these people are like, well, okay, it's a big job. It's a huge thing. So but maybe in that rebuilding process, once the demolition is done, once everything's stripped out of there, then maybe people see it for what it is, which is, someone's attempting to do something better than what previously was there.
Do you think that needs to happen in Canada to a certain extent?
100%.
Yeah, I think so too. But do you think it will? So even if you get a conservative supermajority, which would be the opposite of where we've been at for a while, right? Do you think with an opposite government in power, do you think we would start to see any big changes like that? Or do you think it's the Canada being Canada, it's just the same old shit?
Different problem.
Different dudes steering the ship.
No, it's a fundamentally different problem. Like, I'm no political science person. I don't have a degree. I'm a college dropout. Big shock. But
they'll just let anyone have a podcast.
Oh, I know. You just buy the stuff and just start recording, and away you go. But it's a fundamentally different problem, because if you look at the U.S., switches teams every 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Right? If we look at Canada, the Liberals are known as the natural ruling party for a reason. Right? They've been in power for 24 of the last 30 years or something like that, or 22 of the last 30 years, and more if we look backwards.
Yeah.
Right? In Canada, it's an entrenched power structure problem. It's an entrenched old world colonial wealth problem. And one of the things that I thought was absolutely friggin' hilarious was one of the biggest, several years ago, the Trudeau Liberals led the crusade to shut down Canada Day. Every child matters, all that stuff, which they do. And, we'll get into that hopefully in a future episode. But when you define Canadian identity as post-colonial white supremacy, and then Carney comes in and says, the solution is we return to Europe. We ally with Europe. Now, how in the world of mental gymnastics do you go from Canadian colonial Eurocentric oppression to let's side with Europe and it's all okay? Yeah. I'm like, it boggles the mind. Like, I just don't get I understand that people are really easily manipulated, especially people on like the rage farming side of things.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how anybody's looking at that and being like, oh, that's the right idea. More European politics.
Yeah. Well,
more old world European power in Canada. And instead of trading with the U.S., we're going to send more of our resources and power back to where? Britain? France? We're suddenly
all these countries
we lose 200 years of Canadian independence based on this.
And politically, I mean, you look at what's happening in those countries. Do you want that here? You want to be closer to that or further away?
Well, I think that's all a mess. I don't know enough about Europe to speak on it. I just know a lot of people are leaving Europe to come to places like Canada.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think you can really wrap your mind around the reasons side of it. I don't think reason is really playing a part in a lot of what I think people are working on instinct right now. I think it's Hunter Thompson said something about this, and in times like these, people aren't operating with they're operating on a reptilian level.
Yeah,
it's like a survival instinct. They're with their tribe, they're with their family, they're with their small community. They're grabbing on to whatever big movement thing they have left. But I think the bloom is starting to come off that rose as that starts to come apart at the seams, because these people are not it's the Tesla protests, and it's well, we know these are paid for, we know these are organized, people are being paid to be there.
Yeah,
right. This isn't organic. You're being manipulated, and people are like, oh, I'm so sick of fucking being manipulated.
Yeah. So if your prediction comes true and it's a conservative majority, what kind of changes do we see in Canada? Do we really see anything at all, or do you think it's just kind of like, okay, like the whole two wings of the same bird, the country drives on, and we continue to like slowly get worse?
Well, I think you got to take people at their word when you're looking at these kind of things, right? So a guy like Polyev says they're going to cut income tax and
by 15%.
Yes, just what Canadian politicians tend to do is talk small government on the conservative side, is talk small government, and they get in power and make 10 new agencies in the government.
Yeah.
What I would hope he would do is just live up to what he has said he's going to do. Excuse me. So he'll, be on the side of Canadian resources. How you do that, I don't know. Because people always go, well, why can't we just build coast-to-coast pipelines? I'm like, oh, there's this thing called the Canadian Shield. It's really tough to build pipelines through bedrock.
Solid fucking rock.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we could. I mean, it's not stopping. It's not a deal breaker. We could figure this stuff out. But I would hope that he just lives up to what he promises, right? And you've got a guy down south who seems to be trying to make good on every promise he ever made, and some we didn't even know about. Like, I think that you see a normalizing of Canadian-U.S. relations. I think you see increased resource sector development coast to coast.
Do we see interprovincial trade barriers come down, or do you think this is always going to be the Achilles heel of Canada, where fuck man, you can't sell nothing to Saskatchewan and they can't sell nothing to us? And you're like,
no, I think that's easy. I think that's easy.
Yeah, but do you think they do it, or do you think that the entrenched powers that be?
Well, I think that part of that has to be left up.
Wants to get
part of that's left up to the provinces.
Yeah.
Right. So Alberta and Saskatchewan dropped a lot of those trade barriers quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I remember because there was some fantastic Saskatchewan beer that we couldn't get in
that's true.
Alberta, but now you can get it in Alberta. There's a bunch of that kind of stuff that just I think you'll start to see that stuff again. I think the West leads in some of that stuff. I think that when you are looking at the economic engine of Canada, it's in the West, and I think you take the hobbles off that powerhouse and let that thing run, and it will start to fuel resource and development and manufacturing coast to coast. I mean, we have East Coast mining, we have East Coast, and the whole thing is Quebec has a huge amount of power in this country, right? And a lot of it hinges on the way Quebec goes. I think a lot of Quebec is done with the Liberals, I think if you were to go referendum, like every province and territory for sovereignty, I think you'd be damn near 50-50 in most of them.
Yeah.
Like I think Newfoundland is as likely to separate as Alberta or Quebec for independence. Like I think you might have some regions that would be slower. To join,
and it's been nothing but a raw deal for them.
I know. I mean, like would just be like part of Maine or something like that. They'd probably join the U.S. no problem.
When you say the West leads, then do you think that to draw a parallel with our relationship with the States and how like really they don't fucking need us? That's what they say, and to a certain extent that's right. I mean, because their economy is massive, and what they don't need is to get continually fucked by us. And I'm sure that goes both ways. Do you think then that the West, as far as when you say that they lead the way, that we don't really need the East anyways? Like we don't need the rest of Canada to make it.
No, I don't think. See, Alberta is the economic engine of Canada.
Yeah.
Right. The
check engine light is on too.
Yeah, like what I mean is if a conservative government were to get in, and like I said, take the hobbles off of resource development, how business develops in Canada does it, really, really well in Alberta, because we don't have all of these bureaucratic red tape kind of things that slow down business and development, like they do in BC or like they do in Ontario or like they do in Quebec.
We still have
less
it.
palms that need to get greased for work to get done, right? The palms still get greased and the work gets done a lot faster. It's just there's a lot less show about it, right? There's a lot less. The government doesn't step in every 10 seconds to glad hand it, right? To be like, hey, look, we are allowing a new mine, like we do in BC, right? Like if something resource based or some new business happens in BC, the province is there acting like it was their fucking idea.
Yeah.
Right? Ontario, I don't even know if businesses get started. Like there's so much red tape. There's so much like between unions and the province wanting their cuts and all this stuff. Like I don't even know how businesses start there. Quebec, again, totally kettle of fish. Like it essentially is its own nation within a nation in Canada. So I think that, you know, what has to happen is interprovincial barriers have to come down. Tons of these, like the small governments, local governments, provincial governments, they need to be downsized. Because the federal government could be downsized to nil. And you still have nothing happening in places like BC, places like Ontario, because those regional and provincial governments are so bloated, so swollen that nothing's getting done anyway, right? So, but I think they're going to take the Alberta model, and they take that and they start to apply it nationwide, not to everything, but definitely to resource-based jobs. Yeah. You start opening more mines in Northern Ontario and in Quebec. Start hitting up some of that Quebec oil. Like they got oil there. They got oil and gas in the east. They're just never going to develop it because of this whole idea of net zero.
Yeah.
Right. So we start getting away from this net zero idea. Really allow Canada to flourish, like they were saying. This second stage economy, this knowledge-based economy that Canada is not a part of internationally. We farm out all of it to other nations. We are not a part of this economy. We have to do that long before we can get our feet under us, right?
Yeah, but I don't see Quebec. The only way I see them developing their own resources like oil would be we would have to get rid of equalization. Because right now in the current way that the country runs, there's no, even if you tell them, yeah, go ahead, do it. The only way that they'll ever develop the appetite to develop anything resource-based is if it's not handed to them on a silver platter. Like you would literally have to get rid of us exporting it. Like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. You can buy our oil. Mm-hmm. The key word is buy. You can buy it. We're not going to just give you all this money. We're not going to just give you all these resources. Yeah, we're good neighbors. We're all happy fucking elbows up Canadians, whatever that means.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah. Well, the new pride movement. That's what this is.
It's the new, just don't even get me started.
I'm gonna wind them up, folks. Turn them loose. But to be honest, like I really think that the only way that you would see these other provinces start to develop is if you take them off welfare, which is what Alberta is supplying to the rest of the country in the form of equalization.
Yeah,
you'd have to make it so that each province, like, you got to get what you can out of it. And I'm not saying develop everything and like open pit mine everywhere. That's not what I'm saying. But if there's some way for each province to have an economy, they are obligated to have an economy.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean when we talk about.
And if it's not viable,
yeah,
that this province cannot have an economy, like, well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's half of Canada that's either undeveloped and in some cases undevelopable. With current technology, that's still our territory.
So as a taxpayer, are you obligated to pour billions into it, or
in a large way, yes, because we have to maintain sovereignty over that territory.
Oh, sure, but
right, and that's part of it. Like,
but there's got to be a smarter way to do it.
Oh, 100%, and that's what I mean when I say Canada's a different problem than the U.S.
Yeah,
the U.S. like it's designed differently, governed differently, many more things at the state level, many more things like that are more a matter of tweaking their bureaucracy. Like they have a huge government machine, and the way that Trump's looking at things is like, this whole thing could be done better. Like, how come we're using something like U.S. aid to send billions and billions of dollars into other nations to develop them? And some of that has to be done, But when we're doing it on an ideological basis, or doing it in a way that's obviously corrupt, when we have poverty, crime, and underdevelopment inside of our own nation.
Yeah. Well, and
right?
I think this is the problem with government, period, is that it's never transparent. Every government's like, we're going to be transparent. We'll know where every dollar goes. And then, like, as a Canadian, which I don't refer to myself as often, but say for the purposes of this exchange, as a Canadian, I don't really have a problem with a little bit of foreign aid money going to drill wells in some African village so that the people can have water. And then maybe we make a power station and they have electricity, and this rises them up from like a level of poverty where they can begin to have a better quality of life, period.
Sure.
But that's not what happens with your money a lot of the time. It's like when you look at the USAID thing and then all of the Canadian foreign aid, when you dig into it, it's like gender queer studies at whatever Rainbow University.
There's ideologically based stuff.
They're like, that's not what these, like, I don't want my money going towards anything ideological in that. Like, go ahead and provide funds based on helping people, period, rising up, or, a hand down to help them up.
Right.
But when you look at where this money actually goes, or what they're telling you it's going for, what the
well, yeah, but
it doesn't make sense, man.
It does if you look at it in this light, in that
if I was trying to steal the money and had to give it a fancy title, because what I'm saying is that what the title of the thing that they're sending it to, that's not happening there, and it's never gonna happen.
Right.
Like that.
But let me put it to you this way. So in a lot of developing nations and a lot of places around the world, it's very rugged, visceral authoritarian structure.
Yeah.
Right. So it's warlords. It's sheikhs, emirs. It's in order to influence. When you look at counterculture. So what you're trying to do is you're looking at the different groups inside that nation, and you've got, okay, this group here is propped up by this nation. This group here is propped up by this nation. How do we destabilize, right? So part of that funding of like LGBTQ stuff is funding a group within that nation that has a vested interest to push back against the current power structure. So they're trying to funnel money in to strengthen them up because it destabilizes the power structure that's not friendly to our nation.
Right.
Right. So it's just that in, the 80s, it might have been, democracy in this nation. Well, we figured that like selling democracy don't work, but you know what does? Selling LGBTQ stuff, and we do that under the guise of, right? So I kind of understand. I've read a couple things and heard a couple podcasts where like the CIA people are kind of explaining like this is what's going on, and the reason why we're funding those particular things in those nations is because that's a group that can be leveraged against whatever power structure. They're loud, they're vocal, they're flamboyant, and we can get them out there, and they can be seen to be destabilizing that religious autocracy or whatever is going on in that nation. And they're kind of like cannon fodder. We're throwing them out. We know they're going to be treated badly and shot, killed, imprisoned, whatever. But it gives that country another thing to look at, right? Another vector of attack that they didn't have before that wouldn't come from anywhere else.
Right. I just think it's all pointless. I don't think, because there's no value for the money.
To a degree.
Other than, okay, oh great, we destabilized. We're living in a country where there's like the opioid crisis is at unprecedented levels. There's all these problems in our own society.
That's the government.
And here we are funding all this stupid shit all over the world that has no net benefit other than like, whatever, we send some money somewhere.
Yeah, and
there's no.
I'm not saying that that's the end game for all of those dollars. We know for a fact that there's that money's not accounted for in huge swaths.
Yeah.
But I mean, Canada's a small player in that way. I mean, like the United Nations is rife with scandals. When I look at who's drilling wells over in Africa, it's Christian missionary groups. Yeah. It's Mormons more than anybody else. I want to see who's boots on the ground places. It's churches, and that's just the way of it. But yeah, like I think Canada's a different like a different kettle of fish. Like the U.S. is a giant machine that has been running high performance for a long, long time. It requires a new oil filter, a new air filter. It requires some tweaks, some upgrading. You know, it needs to be made to run more efficiently so that the world doesn't go to shit. Canada is something that's been broken from the beginning, in my mind. It's something that was never set up to run. It was an idea by European aristocrats 200 years ago or longer that was meant to funnel wealth into Europe. And, you know, that was why we built the Trans-Canada Railroad, was to keep America from expanding up into Canada. Why someone wouldn't be like, if Canada and the U.S. merged or had a really, really friendly relationship, you would have the strongest power state in the world, right? And Russia and China, they're not friendly enough to do that, right?
No, they're quite a bit different. It would be hard for them to get to.
Whose interest is it in that Canada and the U.S. are adversarial rather than parallel societies?
Russia, China.
Exactly, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense that you would look at these two nations with the world's longest undefended border with, you know, the U.S.'s powerhouse, Canada's resources and know-how, and put these two things together to make the world a better place, because I think you really could at that point. But, you know, throwing the work ethic of Mexico in there, and how's that joke go? In Egypt, the pyramids were like thousands of years. We haven't been able to figure out how they built them. Pyramids in Mexico, we know how they were built.
Yeah.
Mexicans, yeah. Right? Like, it's if you take that and put that together, we could start to build maybe a better world. But these things are a long time coming because of entrenched power structures, the way things are, and nobody really wants peace.
No.
Peace isn't good for bank accounts and power.
No, there's no money in it. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, where are we at? Oh yeah, we got time.
Oh, lots of time. All the time in the world.
We get a liberal majority government. Hypothetically, then what do you see for the future of Alberta? Is that the straw that breaks the camel's back, where Alberta finally moves towards a path of independence, and follow on to that, if it did happen and Alberta started looking in that direction, out of the two most likely outcomes, where one is 51st state and two is Alberta pursuing its own, you know, whether it's a constitutional republic, its own nation, which way do you see it going? Or do you see it happening at all? If we get a liberal majority or minority that becomes a majority, as far as, you know,
it'll be a coalition.
Still and whatever.
Whoever is running that, maybe it's Nenshi who's running it or something like that.
Sure,
if you could just imagine hell on earth,
nuts or whatever.
I would be. You know, a part of me really wants to see how Quebec votes in this.
Yeah,
because I think
didn't Blanchette endorse Poilievre based on his
So
his
there's been
immigration policy.
Yeah, there's been some stuff there. I mean, you think about old world Canada, man. That's all Quebec, and Quebec is very different from Alberta. Yeah. Quebec is very different from the rest of the nation. I'd be interested to see how that vote goes.
Okay, well, let's say for the sake of this particular.
But yeah, if enough things fall, I just don't see how the Liberals can win without Quebec. But let's assume that Quebec votes Liberal.
Enough
things fall into place, so you get that Liberal minority.
Or majority.
Or majority. Yeah. I think I don't think they're a majority territory. I don't think they have the support, but a Liberal minority would be a majority, provided the NDP get enough seats. It might see the death of the NDP in this election too.
Should be fine too, but
yeah. But I think what you would see is, excuse me, a return to a sovereignty. And I don't want to say independence, because independence is a weird word.
Yeah.
What you would see is sovereignty. So declaring your independence is much different than declaring your sovereignty, right? You can say that you're, a teenager can be like, I'm independent, and in the same breath be like, Mom, where's the waffles? Yeah. Sovereignty is saying, no, I'm in control of my facilities, my faculties, my wealth, my influence, my ability. Because Alberta, much like Quebec has already paved the road, right? They've already written the roadmap for how sovereignty can work within Confederation.
Yeah.
I don't think Alberta would take the same tact because Alberta is the economic powerhouse of the nation. I think the sovereignty movement doesn't stop. Even if Poilievre gets a majority, I don't think that sovereignty movement stops in Alberta.
Really? I think if he got a majority, I think all your people in Alberta that are working on, whether it's the Alberta Prosperity Project or some of these other big movements, I think they all quietly die, because I think
a bunch of them will.
Because I think that the people here are like, oh, we won. Everything's great now. I think,
and you're gonna see some of that. But here's the thing: things are so bad right now that the people in the know, the people who have skin in the game, they're not going to stop. They're not going to just let another election change it, right? And throw it 4 years from now or 8 years from now. I think people are looking at things and they want fundamental change. Like, Trump's doing some extreme stuff in the States and has a huge approval rating. The Democratic Party is the lowest they've ever been.
Right.
And there's a reason for that.
But do you see Smith stepping up to the plate? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, 100%.
It's the day after Liberal government.
So
what do you see Smith
what did they say? 4 months? 4 months before they have 4 months. And I think she said the same thing to Poilievre. You have 4 months before we go into like full sovereignty mode. Right. And I think that kind of happens regardless. Like, I think if Poilievre gets a majority, he's a Calgary boy, I think they'll probably give him some time. But if he doesn't start delivering right away on what promises he's made, I think that, Alberta's a fickle place, man. We'll turf whole friggin' bloodlines of politicians, to make change. I don't think there's a stomach for it. I just don't. I think that Albertans are done with the idea of, we're going to work this hard for the rest of the nation. We're going to sacrifice all the time, all the effort, all the hard work that we do, because that's what it comes down to. Who votes? People who work.
Yeah.
People on the ground. It's the nurses, the oil field workers, the farmers, the people working in restaurants. If there's no money, they're not making it. If there's no money, no one's going to restaurants. No one's buying stuff in stores. People are sick of watching prosperity just go out the door, just go out the door, just go out the door.
So what does the sovereignty movement look like then? So let's say the Liberals get in, 4 months go by, their modus operandi, their method of operation doesn't change at all.
I don't know. And I've actually been curious about this. And this makes me more curious about Quebec, is because they have a different hand in Confederation. And it wouldn't surprise me, and I don't know enough about Canada, about interprovincial politics or how it works with the federal government, if each province or territory didn't have kind of a different deal with they say it's all under one thing and all Canadians are equal, but I think it's pretty obvious that some Canadians are more equal than others.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been that way since 1984.
Yeah. When it comes to the federal government and how things are handed out,
that's
a lot of that.
If you didn't get it.
Yeah. And it's been like that. And I think it's been like that since the Quebec referendums, stuff like that. This power structure that Canada has. That's what I mean. Like, it's a fundamental problem. And I think it's the way that it's been built up over, I don't know. I've only been alive for 45 years, but in my mind, from what I know of politics in Canada, this is just how it's been playing out forever. Is this same kind of shell game, this same money moves around the nation, but it all ends up in the same place. Some of it trickles down to the provinces. We have the same problems now that we did 30 years ago when it comes to like country unity, when it comes to First Nations, when it comes to resource development. Like, none of that stuff's gotten better. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And now that I understand that, like, oh, we totally dropped the ball like 30, 40 years ago when the whole world, like places like Norway and stuff like that, moved to a knowledge-based economy based on intellectual property, and they kept their wealth. And places like the United States, like, grew exponentially, and Canada just nosedived. We had this brief time in the like early 90s where we were at the precipice of being something much bigger.
Yeah.
And because of it, and I don't think there was any maliciousness to it. Like, to hear the story told, it was just ignorance. And maybe we got played. Maybe we, like, the people we had in power were kind of like backwater yokels, and somebody came up with a bag of shiny beans and was like, hey.
Where the Canadian identity used to be. So this is before we talked about it with Landon, that the Canadian identity is that we're not American. Well, the Canadian identity before that was we're nice. So do you think
the Simpsons put it? I'm Canadian, so they think I'm slow, eh?
Yeah.
I think so.
Do you think it was during the period of where we're just nice?
No, I think we got had.
Yeah.
I think the people that we put in charge weren't the best people.
Yeah.
And we were totally taken advantage of by what became the European Union and the United States.
So that the 4 months go by, what's the first piece of legislation that
I honestly, I have no idea.
Like,
when it comes to like righting the ship,
yeah,
like, I think anybody can sit back and quarterback problems, but how do you fix it? How do you fix an underperforming economy?
Yeah.
How do you fix interprovincial trade? Like, I think those are huge problems that have to be viewed like on the macro scale. Everybody's got to get involved. I think you've got Saskatchewan and you think you've got Alberta, who are more or less aligned on the way things need to be. BC's doing its own thing, right? Didn't the guy, just like the premier of BC, like just try to declare an individual trade war with the U.S. like 2 weeks ago and had to be like talked off the ledge?
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. Like, that's totally insane.
Yeah.
Like, places
didn't
like
Carney, he just did his little announcement there the day before yesterday saying that our military and economic relationship with the States as we've known it for the last 5 years is over. You're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, like, what are we going to align ourselves with a continent, an ocean away?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll help.
What do you think about Scott Moe? Was it yesterday? It was last week sometime, saying that Saskatchewan is now the only province that is 100% carbon tax free through legislation. Like, there will be
he's following the will of
his people,
the Saskatchewan people. But I think Saskatchewan has, strangely enough, I think they've got a lot of involvement in their provincial politics.
Yeah. So, but do you see
at a grassroots level, I think there's a lot of people who are involved. I think when he gets direction from the province, from the people who are standing up for their constituencies and stuff like that, I think it's a very unified message. Like, I think there's not a lot of wishy-washy, maybe this, maybe that. I think he's getting clear communication from his subordinates as to which direction they want, because he seems to be able to make decisions very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And Danielle Smith, to a lesser extent, I think she's got a lot of different voices in her ear.
Do you think she should maybe take a lesson from him as far as like getting things, like, why is it that, like, Saskatchewan was the first province to say, hey, we're not going to collect the carbon tax on home heating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why didn't we follow that right away? Like, we still haven't.
I couldn't tell you, man.
There's no repercussion.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Even BC is going to pull it off April 1st.
Yeah.
Which is just a giant showing that.
So why are we...
did absolutely nothing for climate change.
The economic engine of the West, and here we are, we're still so firmly happy to have a boot on our necks. Like, what?
I don't know. Calgary, it's funny because our provincial capital is Edmonton. But Edmonton is mostly an NDP socialist city for the most part. A lot of Canadian or Alberta politics seems to happen in Calgary.
Yeah.
It seems to always have been that way. But I
Calgary
don't understand.
is more internationally, like that's where all the headquarters for these big corporations is.
Yeah, and I've never really understood the, like, there's definitely friction there. Like it's almost like Danielle Smith is leading the province from Calgary rather than from Edmonton.
Yeah.
And it's almost like where you end up with like the situation they do have in the US where like you have this person's in charge and their people are in charge, but the bureaucracy is in opposition to the government. Yeah. Right. So she's maybe leading from outside. Maybe there's things.
Well, corporate Alberta is in Calgary.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. And bureaucratic Alberta is in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand that enough. I do know that when you look at people like Ralph Klein, who was in power, like he understood both worlds. He understood Calgary. He understood Edmonton. He was able to kind of walk that line between the two. I would imagine Danielle Smith does as well. Like, but when it comes to like how decisions are getting made, I'm not 100% sure. I know that she's got some good people on her team. I don't know who they all are. That's the thing about Poilievre. It's like one of the things that we don't know is who's his team. What's his team look like? If he's talking, because like the way Canada works, it's like these people got to get elected. MPs have to be elected to spots and then named minister of this, minister of that.
Well, so, like, hold on.
Who's his team?
Our prime minister wasn't elected.
No, but that's a loophole, right?
This country has a lot of loopholes, man.
Yeah. But every minister that he appoints does have to be a minister from somewhere, right?
You got to pick out of your cabinet.
Yeah. And all he did was shuffle the deck of losers to put back in there, right? Yeah. But who's that's the big thing. Is like we kind of know who the players are now, but what's the future look like for Canada? Like who's next? Who comes after this? Like who do we have waiting in the wings? Like what people do we have to put in these positions, to put on these portfolios? Who are they? What are their qualifications? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right know-how, the right knowledge? Like, if we're going to dig ourselves out of a 40-year economic hole that we put ourselves in, if we're going to enter the knowledge economy in the time of AI, like we have like some of the biggest AI centers in the world, and then we sold it all to Google. Canada owns nothing. All of that.
Even a lot of the Canadian companies that are involved in AI have packed up and moved to the U.S.
Yeah, well, we have two giant AI centers, one of the biggest ones in the world, in Edmonton, I think, and all of that resource is sold to Google.
Yeah,
none of that gets used for Canada. None of it gets used for our business, for the better Canadian business. What can fix that? Like that's the thing is like. We're at a point where things are really, really bad. Could get worse. Could get better. Are people going to vote for more of the same? Or are they going to vote for something different? That's going to take courage. That's going to take desperation, maybe, to do that. I think people are there. I would like to think that when you look at like the rage farm and the clickbait and the government propaganda, that really you're only digging into the top 10%. I would hope that there's 80% that are at least listening, or at least looking at their own balance and their own bank account and being like, okay, it's got to be something better than this, man. Yeah. Like this can't go on forever, right?
Over 50%, it's getting old.
Well, to get nothing for it. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, man, I don't know. What do you think? What could this province do, or even nationally? Is there a direction that you see that leads to a better tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I think for Alberta specifically, because I don't really care about the rest of the country. like they'll have to make their own decisions, right? Like I'm an Albertan, so that's where my influence will be limited to as far as how I vote or speak my mind. But
Yeah.
I think regardless of the outcome of the election federally, Alberta will have to, as you say, pursue sovereignty, aggressively pursue it. Big, bold moves, and don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, if they don't, I mean, then what's the point? What immediate pieces of legislation? I think it's really about just turning off the taps to the rest of the country as far as like the free ride's over. Like I think Alberta just has to look inward. It's kind of like make your bed, clean your room, and that's where Alberta should start, is looking after its own people, put them above everything else. Make your priority is the safety, security, prosperity of Albertans, period. And focus all of our economic power to pull that off. And when we get to a point where Albertans are happy with where we're at, then we can look out again and be like, you know what? We got some extra. Let's help other people. And I think we do that anyways, but I really think that this province needs to like seriously get its shit together. And I think the way that to do that is look inside. If it's outside of our borders, whatever. Like, let's clean this up. Let's build ourselves a strong anchor point and then work from there.
Yeah, I think that, I think you're right. I think
we can't fix, like, you look at our healthcare, it's a joke. It's disastrous.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? There's no reason for the billions and billions that we send out of this province in pure money. There's no reason that we should accept less than the very best healthcare in the world, the very best roads, the very best schools, all of that stuff. There's no reason that we should sacrifice any of it. We have the ability to do it, and we should do it.
Yeah, I think somebody has to, and that's what I mean. Like with the sovereignty thing is someone has to lead, and someone has to push back against the way things have been in this country as a whole. I think Alberta's in I don't say the only province. That's what I mean, because I think Quebec maintains a lot of influence in the East, and if they were to step forward, because our sovereignty, like I said, like within Confederation, we don't need to take a roadmap from what Quebec did, but you can take it and say, okay, this can be done. This is where we're going to take it. I think a renegotiation of the deal between the federal government and the provinces has to happen. I think fundamentally, we need to get a handle on corruption at the federal level, foreign influence.
Provincial too, man. Like
100%. But yeah. if we have, if it's happening at the top, it's happening the whole way up, right? The whole tree is rotten, right? I think that needs to be addressed. I don't think any of the provinces get a good deal if we have foreign nationals influencing our top-down decisions. I just don't think so. But I think Alberta standing up would be good for all provinces. I think all provinces need to renegotiate that provincial-federal relationship. It's just, like I said, the established power structure in Canada is built in such a way from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That
it just keeps us
money
in the colony.
Floats to the top,
yeah.
right? And then you're paying for those same families and bloodlines and stuff that still control old world Europe today, right? That's why we get our marching orders from Davos and all that stuff. And the reason why guys like Carney are even in the freaking conversation to begin with, right? It's not a symptom of a problem. That's the way the thing was designed to work. Right? It's not like we have this, it's not like Canada has lost its way. Canada is operating exactly how it was supposed to work the whole time.
Yep.
Right? So fundamental change is required. And how do you get that? Well, really only two ways. Like, you get better the way you got sick, which is slow, incremental change over long periods of time. Look, we learned our lesson. We got to fix this. Or rapid change. Right? So I think we need a little rapid change to get things rolling.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's a slow change, right? And yeah, Europe would love to sink its claws deep into Canadian resources and take, back that Eurocentric colonial control of Canada, Britain, France, all those places would love it. U.S. is trying to talk some sense into us, and I think in some case, like, just trying to say, hey, look, you're not in control of what you should be in control of.
Yeah.
It's like having an alcoholic loved one just drunk on, whatever Trudeau was drunk on half the time.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Well, I think he literally was hammered a couple times.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, I don't want it to be all doom and gloom in politics, because I think people are operating on that gut level. I think people are pushed. I think people are stressed. I think they're to the point of, you're seeing insanity on either side, on the right and the left. And I think that the people in the center are kind of like, okay, we don't want anything to do with the rest of this craziness. We just want to be able to afford groceries. We want to be able to buy a house. I want my kids to have a better, a better future. And the way that we're doing things now just isn't doing it.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know, man. Anyway, bro.
All right. Cheers.
It's been nice talking to you, as usual.
All right.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, shit. We got to do a piece.
I got one here.
He's got one.
I've been saving this one.
I hope it's a happy one.
No. I've been saving this one for a conversation just like this.
Cool.
It's called It's a Madhouse. I keep asking, but I know I'm wrong. The days get shorter and the nights get long. The mind plays tricks and the band plays on. Just don't let the crazy out. 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 The dark lies cold, unaware are the holes in our eyes and our heads. Somewhat safe in our beds. Line up, get yours from the gentleman's claws. Children cry for their mothers. No one stops at all. All I can hear is the wolfman's call saying, don't let the crazy out. 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 Greet the short sun with a tempered smile. Live a life worth living. Give it every mile. They walk you to church and they walk you down the aisle. I can still hear the screams that I heard as a child. Grow up strong. Grow up right. So meek, so mild, but the mind's no prison, hasn't been for a while. Just don't let the crazy out. 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 Madness is a gift, a full moon's curse. Broke a lot of bad habits. Some got a lot worse. Some drive a Ferrari, some ride in a hearse. But we're all getting there. Just don't want to go first. There's a joke being played on the world as a whole. There's a game of high stakes, ante up with your soul. The world keeps spinning because that's just how we roll. But don't let the crazy out. Don't let the crazy out. Don't let the crazy out. Don't let the crazy out.
Damn, I think it's already out. Good luck getting it back in the box.
Yeah, it's out there.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, CastBox. You can help scroll the channel by giving us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that other shit. You can also find us on Instagram, X, Facebook. Check out our website at thecareerrange.com, where you can find every episode of the podcast, merch like these cool t-shirts. Not the InfoWars cool one, this cool t-shirt. Whatever else we got. And you can find the new book, Whiskey Painted Holocaust, and the blog, which gets uploaded to semi-frequently.
Absolutely, man. Good time as always, man.
Yeah, cheers.
Hopefully the future is only half as interesting as we think it will be. This is the Great Wage Podcast. Out.